and welcome to our Daytona 500 preview. Nick, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Great. So we're going to talk about the Daytona 500 coming up this Sunday. We've got a lot of things to cover also. We're going to just quickly hit on the clash at the Coliseum, and we want to talk about some sleepers and breakouts and busts for the upcoming season and our prediction for our championship 4. So the clash has come and gone. I think it was good entertainment, lots of wrecks, made for a pretty entertaining show. It went a lot longer than I thought it was going to.
Yeah,
What
for
do you
sure.
think about it?
I agree. Entertaining, lots of cautions at the end, lots of wrecks. Not really any good kind of racing, maneuvering going on because it's such a small track, but it was a nice watch.
So I feel like there's something that we need to address after watching the clash is the fact that in our season preview, in our last episode, neither you nor I even brought up the name of Martin Truex Jr.
I mean, I still don't regret not bringing it up. It was a nice gimmick race, a nice win to see Truex win again. I don't think it's going to alter the course of the season at all.
I think you and I were probably both justified in thinking we're not going to put a lot of stock in Truex. Last season was just terrible, and it seemed the further that last season came toward its close that things just got worse and worse for Truex. You still don't think that means a whole lot that he got a win?
Not yet.
I'm kind of wondering, though, because he did have, I mean, for a small track, he did have the fastest car that was out there, and he kept it up front. I think I will say that I should have had him in my top 20 power rankings. If you could redo your rankings from that first episode, would you put him in your top 20?
I'm sure I'd put him somewhere in 15 to 20 just to
Okay.
put him there. Because he's proven that he's a good racer, and if he's got a good car, let's see him do well at Daytona. Let's see him keep going with that.
That's what I was thinking too, is between 15 and 20. So we're not going to redo our rankings until after the first race at Daytona. If you missed our last episode, we did the power rankings. We went all the way from 20 to 1. Each of us have different rankings. We're going to keep those up through the season and see how things change. But let's talk about some drivers that we feel like are sleepers for the upcoming season, some breakouts, and some likely busts. So when I say sleepers, what we mean by that is someone who we think is going to perform better than expected. Not necessarily winning races, but you think, well, hey, that driver they're having a lot better results than everybody thought they were going to have. That's our definition of a sleeper. Now, a breakout is a little bit different. I would say, Nick, you can tell me if you agree with this. I would say for a breakout is somebody who's going to win races and is going to win more than they won last year, whether they won 0 or whether they won however many. We think they're going to win even more, which is probably going to put a breakout, near the top of the class.
I agree with that definition.
Okay. I think, of course, busts is self-explanatory. Someone who is going to be bad, or not necessarily bad, but someone who is going to perform not as well as expected.
All right, perfect. First, for sleepers, this man, he's always been there in my eyes. Most races, he starts probably like mid-20s, late teens, but he always ends top 10, it seems, and that's Eric Almirola. I just see him as having a good season. It was uncertain if he was going to continue. He's going to continue. He's always, in my eyes, a consistent driver. He survives big wrecks. He survives the wear and tear of the tires and the cars, and he always has a good finish.
He did surprisingly well at the clash. He had a fast car, and I think he had a little mistake after a restart or something that caused him to be moved back, and he didn't recover from that, but it looks like he's hungry. Yeah. So that's a good pick. So for my sleeper, I'm going to actually name 2 drivers, and they happen to be teammates. Both of these guys, I think this race team is going to be better than expected. And The name of the race team is Colleague. First driver, Justin Haley. I don't know if he's going to win races this year, but he's going to do better than expected. And we saw how well he performed in the Clash. That's not going to say a whole lot for the whole season, but I feel really high on Justin Haley. And I believe running his first full-time season in a few years, first full-time season with Colleague, I believe that AJ Allmendinger is going to be better than expected. You might just think, all right, this is not one of the top tier teams. We're not going to expect a lot from these guys, but I think both are going to turn a lot of heads this year.
No, I agree with you on that. I considered Haley as a sleeper also, and I think Allmendinger has the skill with him being such a veteran to even win. I'd say a road course, not really a raceway. Definitely a road course. I could see him being up there for the win.
Yeah, but watch out for Justin Haley at Daytona.
All right, so for my breakout star, last week I was really hot on his teammate with his new team. I thought that guy was going to go great, and I think his teammate, Austin Dillon, is going to have a great breakout year. Compared to last year, he won a race. Most of the time, though, he was in his 20s. He was in 30s, like with bad wrecks, bad engine problems. I think this season, with Kyle Busch at his side, which is a glorious sight to see in my eyes, I think it's going to be great.
I don't know, Nick. It's a little bit strange. You're getting excited about Kyle Busch.
I know. I don't know what happened, but
yeah,
I like these two guys now. And I'm going to see what they're going to do.
You just liked that interview. They were cool there standing together after the thing.
I liked after the race, it zooms up there.
I think it's very possible that a successful Kurt Busch will actually raise the level of Austin Dillon. And I think that team also, knowing that he was coming in, they want to work hard. They want to be not just the B team of Richard Childress, but they want to be like, the same level as Kyle Busch. Okay, for my breakout, I'm going to go with a driver who won last year, but I think he's probably going to win some more this year. He's going to make a move and he's going to become the face of his race team at Stewart-Haas. I believe it's going to be Chase Briscoe.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, he's a good driver. He's willing to take some risks, but he's not too crazy about things. He does have that killer instinct of going for the win when it's available to him. And I think we'll see that a few times this year.
I can agree with that pick also. I do like Chase Briscoe. I liked his little playoff run that he had at the end of the season. I think he can come out strong, and I think he could be the face of the team.
Who's a driver you think is not going to quite measure up this year?
Well, last season, he had a terrible start. He recovered about midway through and was able to win and make the playoffs. I think it's going to be the same story, but even worse with Denny Hamlin.
Okay, I think I can see that one coming.
Yeah, he really had a dreadful start last season, and I think it's going to happen again. He got messed up in the playoffs at the end with Chastain beating him. I think it's just going to be a dud season for him.
There's also the possibility he could have a bounce back, and we'll probably know. If he gets off to a rough start like he did last year, or just a mediocre start. That could be a sign of what's more to come for this season.
We'll see what happens.
My bust, I don't know if you can even call him a bust. I think the expectations are already pretty low, but I feel like Brad Keselowski just doesn't have it anymore. I thought that before the Clash at the Coliseum, and then I watched him and his race team actually just be horrible at that race. And I just don't have a good feeling about him for this season.
I mean, I think that's a safe bust because last season, just as a whole, just awful racing. I mean, sometimes he did all right, but it was not good. And I agree, the Clash was just a mess. Like, I mean, it's almost a shame that he's a owner that has a car. Like, let some new guy in here to compete because there's probably not really much of an expectation, and I don't see good things really coming.
Well, I had some hopes this season for Christopher Buescher. It seemed like he was coming on some at the end of last season, But now I'm wondering if they're able to get that good finish to last season, if that's going to carry over. I'm kind of worried about that whole team right now.
They're gonna have to show us some strength in these early races, or else I'm just gonna completely write them off, because like they could be competing with the bottom.
Our power rankings are for the current time. So what we're talking about now is not rankings, but we're talking about a long prediction for what's going to happen by the end of the season. Who are the 4 drivers that you predict will be the 4 racing for the title at the end of this season, several months from now?
All right, so in 4th place that I have for this season, I've got William Byron.
Okay.
Doing a lot better than he did in the playoffs. I hope so, at least. 3rd place, I've got Tyler Reddick.
Okay.
You know, I was hot on him for power rankings.
Yeah.
2nd place, I don't see anything changing with Chase Elliott. He's a great driver. He was there. I can see it happening, but only one man can stop him, and that's Ross Chastain.
That's a good 4. So I'll go ahead and tell you that only 2 of yours were the same as mine. I also have Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain in my championship 4 predictions. The other 2, you're going to be surprised by this one perhaps, but I'm going to put Denny Hamlin in as that number 4 guy. I think he might have a little bit of a bounce back. I won't complain if he doesn't, but I think it could go either way. Either you or I are going to be right. I think he'll either just make his way in and be able to not win a championship again this year, even though he was in the final race, or he'll be a bust and we won't have to talk about him all that much. And then you might have guessed the other guy that I've got in is the guy who I believe will be crowned the champion at the end of this season, and that is Christopher Bell. I believe that he's going to put the things together. He's been very good, close on a lot of things. I think they're going to put the pieces together. He's going to win a few races, and I believe he'll be the winner at the end.
Yeah, I saw that pick coming for sure.
As we're filming this on Wednesday evening before Daytona, the single car qualifying has taken place, and we know who the front row is going to be for the Daytona 500. It's going to be Alex Bowman on the pole and his teammate Kyle Larson starting up front next to him. Either one of those guys might win the Daytona.
I think either one of them could, especially
Yeah.
in the pole. I like seeing Bowman back from injury, and Larson.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind a Larson win.
Looking at the entry list, there are 42 cars that are trying to make the race. There's going to be 40 cars in the field. We know that 36 of those will go to the chartered full-time teams. That leaves 4 spots open for some of these guys who are one-offs. And there's really some interesting names here, Nick. Jimmy Johnson.
That's an exciting name to see back in the Cup car.
Other names, we've got 2311 that's fielding a 3rd car, Travis Pastrana. You know anything about him?
I don't know. I don't even think I've heard that name before.
Okay, I've heard the name before. I don't really know anything about him. We've got Austin Hill, who is entering a car. Connor Daly is going to be in the race.
Yeah.
Zane Smith.
I like Zane Smith. He was the truck champion.
Yeah, so Zane Smith
Yeah.
is going to be the 3rd entry for front row. So he's trying to make it in there as a teammate to Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland. Chandler Smith. Do you know Chandler Smith?
Yeah, he's also a truck guy.
Okay, he's going to be running a 3rd car for Colleague, the number 13. So just taking a quick look at the qualifying results. The top 10 cars that qualified. Now, of course, this is not going to line up to positions except for the front row, but the fastest 3 cars in qualifying were all Hendrick Chevrolets. And then the rest of the top 10, actually the top 9, were all Fords. So you got 3 Hendrick cars that were at the top of the field on speed, and then you got a bunch of Fords after them. I don't see any Toyotas in there.
No, yeah, no Toyotas at all. That could be, yeah.
just on speed, looks like the Hendrick guys are going to be the ones to beat. Based on that, I'm going to go ahead and share my pick to win the Daytona 500. You got Bowman on the pole. You've got Kyle Larson on the front row. But the Hendrick driver I believe is going to win is William Byron. He was actually the third fastest car in qualifying. He's had some good results at Daytona before. I think he'll be able to get out there and win this one.
I like that pick. And I think the Hendrick, they're really just going to have a game plan of them three up front, just hold it. Hold the line, keep the speed, and they'll have a little shootout at the end if they're still there. So I think Byron is a very good pick for that race.
And I'm sure Chase Elliott will be up there with him too.
He'll catch up. Yeah.
Yeah.
My pick, I was watching this guy on TV today. He's got me all fired up for him. He's been runner-up twice. Bubba Wallace. I think it's his year.
So was it something about what he said in the interview that made you believe he's the guy for this race?
Well, it's the usual stuff of that they're fired up for the season. That wasn't what convinced me really. He's kind of been growing on me. I've seen him getting better. I think he can come out strong and win this one. Seal the deal. Third time's the charm. Bubba Wallace.
All right. We've got Byron in the Chevy. We've got Bubba Wallace in the Toyota. Who should our third? We're gonna give a consensus top three for Daytona 500. Who should our third driver be? Should we go for a Ford or should it be somebody else?
I don't know. I like the Hendrick guys. I don't see them going away.
Why don't we say, since Bowman had the pole, that Larson is going to be the guy that's running right up there at the end?
All right. I definitely Larson.
Okay.
Sure.
So my pick to win, William Byron. Nick's pick to win, Bubba Wallace. Our consensus top three, third driver is Kyle Larson. Well, then give me a sleeper for the Daytona 500.
I think there's going to be a whole mess, a bunch of Hendrick guys going everywhere. This guy's going to zoom up from behind Mr. Briscoe. I know you'll like that.
Yeah.
I like a Briscoe steals. This is not a Briscoe leads 100 laps. This is Briscoe steals a win in like the last 10 laps kind of Daytona win.
Yeah, and he is one of those guys where you didn't see him the whole race, and then we're coming down to the end. Hey, where'd Briscoe come from? I mentioned it just very briefly a few minutes earlier. I think you're going to look up and you're going to see Justin Haley contending for the win at the end of this race. So he's my sleeper pick this time.
That'll be an interesting Justin Haley win. I'd like that.
It's not out of the question that some of these mid-tier guys can get up there for the win. We've seen Michael McDowell do it recently. We saw Austin Cindric win as a rookie last season. You know, I think you and I both kind of pull for those underdogs to win in races like this.
Yeah, no, I agree. You don't want to write them off. Plus, this is such a big race that you could add to your resume that, I mean, anyone could win it.
Well, I guess that'll about do it for us this time. We'll be back right after Daytona with some updates to our rankings, some breakdown of the Daytona results. Then we'll look ahead to the next race of the season too. But I'm really excited to get this thing started. Hope you enjoy watching the race this weekend.
Should be a good race. Talk next week.